All right, welcome everyone with Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Revolutionary Girl Utena, episode 13. Oh boy. Oh boy. Getting back into this show after the last episode. This'll be fun. I don't know why I thought to quote HK47 right there. But
I don't think anybody but like 5 people.
No, I know.
Say that reference.
Yep. But here we go. Utena has learned some lessons. Maybe she has more to learn. Maybe, she doesn't, or whatever. That you might have seen the previous discussion. Let's go. So y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. Oh, out the gate. Yeah. Creepy. Okay.
That was hilarious and creepy.
Yeah. This is him recording the master copy so that he doesn't need to say it every time he goes up to the place.
Oh yeah, this is a creepy start.
Yeah. What?
Ooh,
we getting backstory?
Whomst the fuck?
I think we enact 2, Caleb.
Oh shit. Whoa.
何か懐かしいものを思い出させたな。バラの花嫁も少しは心が動いたのではないか。それにどうやら君も彼女に期待し始めたようだね。剣道部首相の彼と偶然戦うことになったあの時から。
Whoa.
君は彼女に期待していたんだ。
Is this a...
なかなかいるじゃないか。女の子にしては。
Yeah, I think it's like it's that like recontextualizing kind of recap.
Right, exactly. And if that's the case, this could end up being like one of the most interesting recap episodes I've seen. Cause like we'd be getting like a very important reveal at the beginning of a recap episode.
Yeah.
And maybe this is also where it goes back over specific things that have maybe been like
drip
foreshadowing
fed,
and drip fed and all that stuff. The way that that was what the prince said back then, but it was with the different voice. That was so satisfying when it happened.
Yeah. So this point is the duel of friendship.
Yeah.
And the color of the rose corresponds to the glass. Yeah, okay. Choice.
Because that was the second duel with Sionji, right?
Yeah.
Right, and that's where she essentially decided to truly be a duelist rather than accidentally.
Will challenge you, yeah. Right. I haven't been thinking about it this way, but absolute is a very choice word to use in the lyrics for this.
Sure.
In that it's destiny and birth. And if we have some kind of sleeping, like prince or like being inside like this whole like ritualistic space and stuff, the duels are potentially giving them like some form of energy or sustenance or life. But if it's absolute, they could be like a failed duelist, or like they could be a dark future for Utena.
Okay.
like Utena's gonna take their place, basically. Because the lyrics, in some ways, have to correspond to the duelists, right?
Right.
Because they're unique based on each fight, right? They're not always exactly the same.
Right.
There's some themes that are connected.
Right. Certain things repeat, but then other things will switch.
Right. And those seem to be based on who's fighting. Because there's always some kind of character focus with regards to, like, the challenger.
Sure.
Or...
Well, and there's a part of me that wonders...
The emotional conflict.
So, this kind of stuff happening, and the stuff that we got before we started going into the recap, that very much gave me the vibe of, like, okay, this is where the show actually starts getting weird, right? Like, because before, until then, there were certain things that were, like, you know, where it was, like, hard to tell what they were getting at in, like, a concrete
they need to
sense,
establish
you know?
more of a foundation, yeah.
Right.
And then this is her moment of being like, no, I'm going to be a proactive protagonist. I'm not going to auto-lose here. I'm going to...
Yep. Oh, was that the first time where... Oh, shit. Wait a minute. Did that happen back then? I thought that didn't happen until later, but... Or is this like a new perspective on what had been happening?
We'll have to go back and rewatch the episode, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this definitely didn't happen.
Oh. Shit. Whoa. So she channeled this being and instantly won.
Right. That would explain some things because the times that she won seemed very like, oh, they just charge at each other and she wins, but it never really made sense. Like from a mechanics perspective, more of just like it's narratively satisfying, so go with the romance of it, right?
Yeah.
But if there's an actual mechanic. Wait, so is that Dios then?
Raison, that's
Mickey?
Well, yes, but raison d'être, the phrase, yeah.
Feel bad for laughing, but it always gets me that how Mickey was genuinely surprised by that.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm digging the music that they're choosing to go with these fights.
I mean, I believe this is just the music they had during the actual fights, yeah. It's just usually not, like, exactly in these scenes, you know? It's like on the walk up to the fight, or...
Sure.
Oh, that perspective, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so has that happened every time that she's won?
Right.
Oh my god.
But just because we didn't know about it necessarily, it wasn't shown because we wouldn't recognize it.
I mean, it was shown later.
Right. But maybe it's the... Wait, you thought she defeated these people just because of, you know, luck or, you know, all those sorts of things?
This one, yeah.
Yep.
I love also how most everybody in the fights is primarily a fencing fighter, and she's coming in with a two-handed sword, you know?
Oh, yeah.
だがこれまで7つの決闘を経て未だ彼女はデュエリストだ。やはり彼女こそ我々の望んでいた人間なのかな。確かにこのまま進んで革命という名の決闘まで到達する可能性はある。君が完全に解放される日も近いのかもしれない。そう怖い顔するな。その日を待ち望んでいるという点において、君と私の利益は共通しているんだから。だが、そろそろ新しいステージが始まる。これから先の決闘を彼女はどう戦うんだろうな。
Is that Auntie?
That almost looked like Auntie.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait.
Oh, shit.
What? What does Auntie know? Oh, shit. That on its own just set my mind spinning.
Same. What?
And then... wait. What the fuck? What?
They're giving us something to stew on as like an apology for the recap episode.
They're like, no, watch. We got to do a recap episode? Okay, that's fine.
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
We're going to dread them fucking crazy.
We're going to give them so many theories and stuff off of this.
Like, that also, the fact that Auntie, it seems, was there with them. Imagine if the reason that she's been going along with all this is she's like, yeah, that's fine. They can do their little thing. I know shit that none of these people know. Like,
but she's either... Like, what would be the emotional reason why she wouldn't tell Utena anything? Because it has to be an emotional reason.
It could be an emotional one. It could be dedication to the game, basically.
No, I don't think so.
Keep them forever.
The way in which she seems to have this like almost docile doll-like no will or anything, and yet Utena like gives her that little bit of like joy, you know?
Right.
Means there's some deep emotions that she's got. She's just not able to express them or something.
No, it's that Utena never asked her if she knows anything extra. Oh yes, in fact, I can tell you all about it.
I mean, yeah, but then you don't know what you don't know, so...
Right, exactly.
Yeah. All right, we got ourselves a recap episode, and probably my favorite recap episode I've ever watched in all of anime, maybe. Yeah. There's a couple times in, like, other shows that they've done, like, you know, like a montage kind of, like, clip show or recaps episode of sorts. Like, Avatar: The Last Airbender probably has the actual best one in regards to that. But
that's technically not anime, so there you go. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, okay, we are getting we are getting new details with regards to the world building, but it is not a hard kind of descriptive element there. A lot of it is very impressionistic.
Yes.
And yet, most of it is coming from the potentially the end of the world? The being or persons associated
with that. End of the world,
with that.
Dios, something along those lines.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what. But
yeah,
one of the things that I gotta just give a shout out to before we even get into all of it, the fact that in this recap episode, in most recap episodes you'll have some original animation and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes that's with the people doing the recapping, right? You know, some little story that's happening, some little vignette or whatever. Cool, awesome, right? It's a great way to add extra entertainment value. But I don't think I've seen situations where in the recap episode, some of the limited new animation that they're, adding is actually in the past events to give additional context
as to what was
actually going on that we weren't given back then because it either wasn't relevant, we wouldn't understand really what was going on, the characters wouldn't understand. So, if they're not focusing on it, why does the show need to focus on it, you know?
So what it seems to be is that as Utena was the one being challenged in most of the duels,
Right.
she would draw forth the Sword of Dios from the Rose Bride.
Yep.
And in order to win, or in order to not lose more accurately, because there were so many times where Utena wins by absolute pure luck.
Yep.
No, it's actually that the ring that she had, or the connection that she has to the power of Dios through the Rose Bride, and by being the champion of the dueling ring, she literally channels this being, or this power of Dios from, like, assumedly the castle.
Yep.
And this specter being, like, alights, like, onto her, into her, and allows her to win in either a flash of skill or luck or fate
Or guts or whatever. Yeah.
But what's curious about that is that the form of this power or being or what have you,
Yes.
it's literally her prince.
It's literally her prince, and the thing is that now that we have actually seen that form as a person, well, maybe not necessarily having a conversation, because they were kind of quiet. It was more the other person that was doing all the talking.
Well, yeah, they were asleep. They were asleep. They were asleep on top of the egg shell thing.
But as an actual person, not just some figment concept, whatever. Right?
Well, okay, that's
Like
an
we had-
interpretation. I have an interpretation as to where they're actually not entirely a person. But
Okay,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, okay. Now that you say that, that does make me think that they don't necessarily have to be, because one, we had an unreliable narrator apparently with some of the previous episodes with regards to the fights, so they could absolutely recontextualize some of the stuff that's happening here later to be like, here's what your understanding of it would be. But what's actually going on is going to be something different. They could totally do that. But this is an example where it's something that is completely divorced from Utena as far as connection, right? It's there's still a connection, but it's
I'm sorry, I'm being that guy who's
I know, right?
Yeah,
it's because we're getting into the trippy territory. Splitting hairs and that sort of pedanticness can be very helpful, because then it's the what exactly are we dealing with?
I will say, to add some fire to some fuel to the fire of your theory before this episode of the previous one, that there was an element of self being conquered. This episode literally brought up in a very direct manner that the final duel was regarding self, and the elements that dictates what the duel is over is the challenger. And given that there were two red duels at the end, referring to the student council president, which I will say is actually kind of wrong by the conventions of the way that this seems to be structured, in that the colors dictated the challenger, but in a weird way, the student council president was not the challenger for the final one, so the final one should have been pink.
Well, and I was
unless that's not Utena's color, so the red was.
One theory that I just had, but it still breaks down with the same number of duels that it doesn't account for with that one, is what if it was actually not based on the challenger, but it was based on the loser? But that doesn't quite work, because Utena lost the second to last fight.
Right, because then, again, student council president wins the second to last fight. Yeah, like
right, exactly.
Like you were saying,
But one of the other things that I could see potentially being a situation here, what if it's not about winning or losing the fight, whether you're the challenger or not, it's whether or not you were able to actually be the victor of the internal struggle.
But then very few people actually are victors in terms of these internal struggles.
Exactly. And that's why, so that could make for the exception of the wins, loss, and things like that, because most of the time it's the challenger that is coming in with the beef,
emotional problem,
and they lose. They are not able to learn their lesson entirely, right? They make progress as a result of the fight, but it's something where they are actively processing it in the midst of it, right? In the situation with, well, no, maybe, I feel like that probably breaks down a lot. Because then also for the first one,
so let's back up away from the fights really quick, because what we got in that is a very cool impressionistic description of what the fights were over.
Right.
I like that. But what we also got is some very, very interesting stuff for Anthi.
Yes.
Anthi knows some shit. And the thing is that Anthi is not talking about shit. Now, the thing is, Anthi as a character is one that I believe is very simple on the surface, but complex as fuck once we get like a couple layers down.
Yeah.
On the one hand, Anthi seems to have very little agency of her own in terms of what she actively does on the surface, especially in the context of duels and the
reactive to the max.
Yes, especially the champion of the Rose Bride, basically.
Yep.
But we have seen multiple times where she actually does do some stuff actively, and it immediately has, like, the story takes efforts to show the immediate consequences of those actions. So if Anthi is in this story that is about the emotional internal conflicts of these characters, but she herself literally shows no emotional
conflict,
means that actually her emotional conflict is so incredibly either deep down and like suppressed, like literally like actively shoved down there, or it's already over and she lost. Like there's this element of her being this pawn in the game, right?
Yeah.
And we still don't know the masters of the game yet.
Although we might have met them.
Well, we might have met them through, out of, omniscient storytelling devices here.
Right. Yes.
But
the
Utena,
rest of the cast.
Utena doesn't necessarily have the connection to them. But if Utena is a bigger kind of focus point of the duels, in that, did I say Utena? I meant to say Anthi.
Okay.
Anthi is a bigger focus point of the duels, in that we need to have a duel focused on saving Anthi from whatever this stuff that's going on in the world that makes her just have to be the Rose Bride. Because I can't see in this story of like identity and people breaking past the perceived, I don't know, limitations of
limitations and
society
categories
and all this stuff. That aspect that Anthi almost fills the role of in a fairy tale, she has to break out of that at some point.
Well, okay. So from the previous episode, and the way that Utena had to realize that, like, oh wait, I can't force you to change.
Right.
I can be here as a potential alternative option if you so choose.
Right.
But I can't force you to take it, right? If you still want to be the Rose Bride, that's your call, right? That combined with this episode and us, like this whole thing and the idea that Anthi was there communicates to me that she might know far more than any of the people on the student council, right? About this whole situation.
Possibly, yeah. I would say other than maybe the student council president.
Maybe the student council president, but even then I don't think so.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then her decision to keep this going could easily...
How do you know she's deciding to keep this going?
Well, yes, there's always there was always the possibility that this is something that she is being forced into, right?
It to me it seems like she has so little active agency in the story that she does not have any say as to whether or not the duels are happening or not.
So, sure, as far as whether the duels are happening or not, but and this is a bit splitting hairs, but she is still very much actively deciding to play the game, right?
How?
Whether she's being coerced into that or whatever, who knows, right? But the biggest characterization thing I would say that we've gotten from Anthi so far, because she's very mysterious and not gotten into in a lot of up close detail because of the way she is that she is very much on board with the Rose Bride thing, or at the very least espouses to be, right? Until we find out that she is being coerced, kind of in a similar situation to Utena, well, we just kind of have to take her at her word for it, right?
Because that's the thing. She doesn't have a word. She doesn't speak. She doesn't engage. All this stuff of the ritualistic nature of summoning the sword from her and all that, She basically just does her part and says her line, sits there. We don't ever see her even walk up the stairs. She's just always there.
No, right, but just because she's playing a part doesn't mean that she's not choosing to play that part, right?
I'm aware, Jacob. I'm just saying we see her so little actively choose anything outside of being the role of the Rose Bride,
right,
and what that entails. That to me screams that she has, at the very least, some active restrictions put on her, whether she chooses them or not. I don't think a whole and healthy person, through the themes of the way this story communicates them, would choose that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Whether or not it is a healthy decision for it to be, whether or not we end up getting confirmed later that no, actually she was being coerced into this, totally. But for now, whether it's because of coercion, whether it's because of an unhealthy choice on her part, or some weird way in which we don't understand that it actually is, she figured out some way for it to be a healthy choice.
Right, because to me, I'm almost about to go into the realm of she's not actually human. There's some weird things I'm getting feel the vibes from this episode especially.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Where? Sorry. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
If assuming that this is something that is not being coerced, right?
I don't think coercion has to be the only way as to but go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm splitting hairs, yeah.
Yeah. Assuming that she is in some way choosing this or whatever, right? That there is some thought process, reasoning or whatever for why she does this, right? That is her own.
Yeah. So what is the
What we're getting here seems to be something where it's not that we're actually getting her reasoning for it, but we are getting to see the scope of perspective that she has is fundamentally different than every other character that we've had as a part of the cast up to this point in the story.
Yeah, we know that has to be the case. Like we know that by the nature of, at the very least, that the student council president has had times where he's faked end of the world shit, and it's just him doing stuff.
Sure.
But also then has conversations with end of the world. The only person that could potentially have a claim to that we have like a full understanding of, that's like an actual character, is the student council president. So yeah. So what's your point beyond that though?
That it's a huge deal that it got essentially confirmed that Anthi does have that connection. Yeah. Because if the question this entire time has been, why is Anthi going along with this, even if this isn't the actual explanation in of itself, it's the direction of the explanation in my mind.
Yeah, and I'm choosing a direction. I'm sorry. I feel like I've leapt a few steps ahead of you. Is that I've kind of already ascertained that. I'm going on the yes, and the direction is there is a part that she is being forced to play. There is an archetype that she is literally thematically playing at the very least. So I assume that the mechanics of the story will line up according to those themes. That she is the princess in a castle. She has no agency of her own. She is entirely here because this is a part of the ritualistic format of these duels.
Right.
And thus, the knowledge that she has there says nothing as to whether or not she has agency in here. It just says that she has knowledge.
Okay. All right. Maybe this is where the complication is happening. Are you talking about the role of the Rose Bride, or are you talking about Anthi as a person?
I am saying that
the Rose Bride not having agency, absolutely. That's the point of it.
See, that's the thing is that everything to do with the Rose Bride is that they are subservient to the champion of the duels.
No, right. But with regards to Anthi having the decision and whatever things cause her to go along with it and continue to play the part of the Rose Bride, this seems like it's going in the direction of no, she actually could have a lot of agency. At the very least, if she is subservient to someone that's making her do it, she is subservient to people that have nothing to do with the student council in any way, right? Like it's directly from the admin of the game, basically.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So what we have mechanically is we have a castle in the sky, right? Mm-hmm. And from there, some kind of power gets channeled through the champion of the duels, the person who's wielding the the sword, the sword of Dios, basically. Yeah. We saw this specifically that the student council president uses this power in a way that Utena didn't know could be done.
Right.
But she had been unconsciously using it every time she was about to lose a duel.
Right.
Now, because she was the champion, that was the case. Mm-hmm. When she challenges Saionji in the beginning here, let's go back to the recap thing here. She kind of wins by pure luck, basically.
Yeah. She's got the sliced up.
She doesn't even have a
hilt
real
of a kendo sword.
Yeah, she doesn't even have a real sword, basically.
Nope. And she doesn't have any skills as a sword fighter.
Well, no, she does. She's not immediately getting wiped by Saionji, and Saionji does have skills. So
she knows something of what to do with a sword, but she's not like trained in any way, as far as what we know, right?
Well, okay.
Saionji's the one in the kendo club and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that assuming what Utena doesn't know, I feel like is not worth it when she actually just performs with swordplay. She never says, at least as far as I know in the story, I don't have any training with swords or anything like that.
No, right. But assuming that we're not trying to finish the story for the creators, right?
No.
They don't show anything of Utena having any experience with it other than she goes into a fight and she ends up winning.
That's my point, is that she goes into a fight, shows that she can actually perform in the fight. But that's showing that she has some skill. My point is not to go into a debate as to how much skill she has. I'm saying that she wins this fight, and even though
that was exactly the kind of point I was trying to make.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The thing I'm trying to move to is that in this moment, she does not channel any power of Dios here, just as much as Saionji doesn't either. This was a
vanilla battle.
It was a vanilla battle, as far as we can see here.
Yep.
I'm wanting to just triply make sure by looking back at this recap bit, because it did seem like there were things added in the animation of the recap to show that she was channeling the power to win the duels after she became a champion.
Right.
Now,
if anything, she was thinking back to the prince that she ran into, and
who is basically looking exactly like the being that's on top of the egg.
Well, and based on the information and the way that the names were being used by the dialogue of the new character, the prince is implied to be Dios, right? Because the guy says, your power, right? And we know that it's the power of Dios. So if we were to attribute names to those two characters, we've got Dios and then probably End of the World. And theoretically, we could go back to the conversation that the president has with End of the World on the phone and see if the voices match up.
Yes, but I'm trying to discuss mechanics here before we go into that, because that's very cool. But the point here is that she does think back to the words, basically, that were spoken to her as a child, right?
Right.
Never lose that strength or nobility, even when you grow up.
Yep.
Almost like a.
It had become a mantra for her.
Yeah. It was almost like she had taken on that as her power. Yes.
Right.
So, if anything, she might have channeled not necessarily the power of Dios, but something that is maybe connected to that with her own identity that she's taken up as this prince that saves damsels.
In a non-fantastical way, she channeled Dios.
Yes.
Right.
But I wanted to showcase something here visually that was curious. So they have the little flash of her thinking about this. And Saionji goes, yo, you don't know about the Sword of Dios? Who are you? And I believe this is her saying this here.
Oh,
the prince on a white horse.
Oh, yeah, that's Saionji.
That's Saionji, yeah. He's mocking her, right?
Right.
Now, in this moment, she charges forward. Her hair is shown here. It's purple. Now, the hair of...
But like totally different shade of purple.
Well, no, I get what you're saying. But I think that they're maybe trying to say here that there might have even been some channeling here before she became a champion. Potentially. It's not the exact same thing.
Well, right. Whether or not the thematic implications result in mechanical, fantastical implications, she is, in a non-fantastical way, channeling the prince right now, right here.
Right.
And if the prince is Dios, she is channeling Dios, right?
Right.
Whether, through mantra and actions and inspiration, maybe rather than actual magical power or whatever.
But I want to continue forth because I feel like because this is the first duel and it's because it's before she wins and because of the fact that she kind of just flukes it, I think it's very important to be actually hyper-analyzed. And they choose to flash her hair color back to pink in the same frame here. I think she's actually literally mechanically channeling the power of Dios here.
And that could be a...
And the way that the characters react to this says that it is the case.
Or at the very least that it's something that appears to be unnatural, right? It
surprised them.
Right, it surprised them.
Yeah.
And that's where I wanted to bring up the whole idea of the fact that Utena she knows how to swing. She knew how to swing a sword before she started this fight.
Right.
But she was not classically trained. She was not. There was nothing that was worth mentioning that would be relevant to the fight.
Right.
You have someone who is an expert in the kendo club, and someone who is very much not. Right. And she beats him. That's weird. Right. Like, and it could be that he was cocky or whatever. But then there's this stuff that's happening.
And this is the point where everyone gets shocked, not just Saionji. Anthy gets shocked. We have never, ever seen her get like this in the fights.
Okay. It is possible that Anthy was concerned for Utena's safety because Utena does not have a real sword. She is not an actual duelist. Saionji specifically
die.
And Saionji specifically brought a real sword rather than just a kendo sword.
And that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I feel like when I watched this, back a long time ago, I remember this moment of like, oh shit, like, is Utena gonna get seriously hurt here?
Right.
Like, it would make sense that there would be like an actual point where the protagonist would lose, and having it start with this bitch Saionji,
right,
and then it'll be the thing that gave her the gumption to go and come back to these duels and stuff. But instead, she wins.
Well, and also to further that, even though I could totally see the surprise actually being about the mechanical stuff that might be happening here that you're talking about.
Yep.
Anthy could also be very worried here because the nature of this duel is abnormal.
And she knows that.
Utena is not an actual duelist. She has a ring, but she, it's this whole weird thing. And so things don't necessarily have to go the way that they normally would, right? Within the student council, if they challenge each other and things like that, I'm sure they, while there might be a whole bunch of witty banter and things like that, right? And things might get heated. It's still very much like they know the rules. It's a sanctioned thing, right? Like there's an element of safety to it, probably. Here, there isn't necessarily that.
Yes, but I want to bring up the fact that they mentioned in this episode the egg began to crack actually at the first duel. Showing that, again, she was channeling that power here in maybe the lowest form of it. So, but hold on, I'm not done. But I think that Anthy's response here is not just oh no, Utena's rushing forward with reckless abandon, but I think she's actually shocked that, wait, she's actually channeling the power of Dios right now.
So
like she actually can tell.
So, okay.
Yes.
Different theory in parallel lines to that, but very, very different take on what's causing what. The two figures mentioned, the one figure mentioned while talking to the other figure that was asleep or whatever, that even Anthy's heart was able to be reached, right?
Yeah.
And that, the power of, your power started to awaken, that time after the first duel, I believe is what they were saying, right? Yeah. And great, that's a way to showcase that Utena is mechanically different, and that's why the story is happening now. That's why, that's why she's the main character. All of this stuff. That's why things are happening in a way that the student council are surprised by and aren't able to respond to in the same way, and all that stuff. But what if it's not that the power has anything to do with the sword or whatever? We know that the power is influenced by Anthy in some way because she was able to bless the sword And
well, she literally channels the...
No,
Right, yeah.
But so then, what if it's not about whether or not Utena is channeling the prince, it's about Anthe's heart. And because Utena reached Anthe's heart, and in that moment, Anthe was concerned for Utena.
Yeah.
She was worried about her. She did not want her to lose.
Sure.
Hey, she didn't lose, right? And so then, if you have a situation where the mechanics of the egg being cracked and things like that, and the power of Dios is directly tied to Anthe, that could be then a reason why it's kind of coercion-y or whatever, because she's inherently tied into this thing that maybe she didn't sign up for, but she is making the active choice to go along with it because it's the, maybe, you know, if it's like her older brother or something, I am the only one that can actually, you know, break the curse or the spell or whatever that is keeping my brother in this state of perpetual slumber, which would be kind of funny in a little different way. Utena loves to, you know, subvert tropes and sort of flip things around and whatnot. If you have the prince that is actually cursed with eternal slumber, right?
Yeah.
And so then the princess is the only one that can, you know, like rouse them from it. That's a fun twist on the convention.
Yeah, but I get the vibe specifically that what the prince did to Utena was manipulative and not a good and healthy thing. The idea that Utena has specifically come to the I am now basing my entire identity around this prince thing, I feel like is something she will have to herself replace, kind of resolve, and build upon something more that's truly hers and not something that's been imprinted upon her from a young age.
It was something that was, I don't think that the intent was necessarily that, you know, Utena would then be like, I'm going to become a prince, right? If anything, it seemed like that was more of the taking it in a different direction than what would traditionally be expected.
The reason why I say that, one, because of the ring. The ring does not make sense as be a thing to be attached to the I'm just a nice prince who saved a young damsel.
Totally.
Because of what we know these rings are attached to.
I'm not saying that the prince was
had good intentions?
And had good intentions.
Okay.
But that Utena didn't, the way that things went isn't necessarily what the prince intended. Utena becoming a duelist, I think that is because he gave her the ring lets her become a duelist, there you go, right? It's very, you know, ipso facto kind of situation.
I kind of get what you're going for here, except that the prince was like, this will guide you back to me eventually. Like that was was a push in the you will eventually get wrapped up in the duels, literally, you know, for the Rose Bride.
And I got no question about that being part of the intent of it, right? Because the ring, it's very straightforward, right?
Yeah.
And the prince is all kinds of sussy in what we see of that flashback, even though the show is specifically not showing us much else other than that little bit that we get to see that sort of became Utena's like defining, changing
it's
moment.
It's a fairy
you know?
tale.
Right. It's a fairy tale.
Completely unreliable.
Yep. And the fact that then this, what looks like the same prince, is then now in some sort of magic slumber or something.
Yep. That's why
then makes it all other kinds of odd, because then
I have a theory as to what that is.
Okay.
We are very much addressing the unreliable narrator issue of Utena's fairy tale here, but we are also not addressing the unreliable narrator that is these duels in general. We now know for a fact that Anthe knows there's more going on here to these duels than what meets the eye, right?
Right. Well,
you and I have both basically ascertained that the student council president is the only one that knows slightly more than what anyone else does. But here's the point that is very interesting here. Why does a locked up in a potential, you know, slumber, this prince, have an encounter out in the world, basically? Hold on. I'm asking a question. I'm going to kind of answer it, but I want to answer it with a question here for you to kind of think about. Is in the past, at some point, like look at the timeline here. At that point, the prince encounters Utena, gives her a ring. That's the only like mechanical thing that we're 100% sure happened there.
Right.
But the rings are the entry access to the duels, right? If the prince gives that there, and then at some point later gets, put into some kind of dormant state or something like that, why set it's reversed? Well, because in some point there, the rings would be there to fulfill whatever the ritual is, to break the seal on the egg for the thing to awaken. But so why would they exist and be needed if the prince wasn't sealed or asleep at that point?
So okay, I got a few things to say on this and a couple different areas of what you talked about.
Yeah.
So one, when I think of how this mechanically happened as far as the prince, being there and all that stuff, there's he wasn't asleep yet. There's he astrally projected himself while he was asleep, right? And that's why it's sort of a fairy tale thing. Maybe he never actually was physically there, right? And the ring was somehow able to be given to Utena through some little miracle.
I think that's a very low likelihood because a physical object was handed to
totally.
Utena.
And I'm just mentioning it for the sake of mentioning it. I know. But then the other line of thinking that I think is interesting to get into here is then what are the motivations that we can determine about the prince or Dios or whoever as a result of this happening? When I think about him going somewhere outside of the school and giving someone a ring, there's a few things that come to mind. One, there's all the potential sussy nature of it where he's trying to use Utena or whatever, right? And here's an impressionable young girl and stuff who just lost everything. And so now
I think based on the result, that is somewhat happening, no matter whether that was the entirely main intent of the whole thing.
Right, exactly. That was a consequence as a result of what happened, right? But as far as why they would do this, it could be that it's part of some prophecy or whatever. It could be that there was something wrong with what was happening at the school, and this is their. I need to be able to
bring in someone new.
I need to be able to bring someone in new, but just letting a ring be given to someone out there is maybe a more covert way of doing it, right? Like there could be some way in which or maybe that's too specific of an example. Him giving the ring was either something that was allowed to happen or was not supposed to happen.
Yes.
Right? So, one of those
based on the student council president's acknowledgments, Utena should not have gotten the ring.
Right. Now, he doesn't have all the info.
Yes, exactly. I was going to bring that up in that the prince, in their role, in my opinion, right now, is non-literal. And this is where I want to go into ascertaining what the sleeping prince is. That is not a human.
Okay.
That is a personification of the power that saves Anthe.
Okay. Before I am totally up for.
Can I keep going with this a little bit? Or do you have something you would?
There was a thing that I forgot to mention in the previous bit.
Go for it. Yeah.
Before we get into this, because that's going to be really cool. There is also the possibility that the prince knew, I am about to be put under a spell. Please come save me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And of course, he doesn't burden the child with that or whatever. He just says, hey, gives them an inspirational little thing, and then hopes that maybe it's the long shot, the Hail Mary, that maybe this will all be fixed one day because there will be some miracle child that will come back in however long it takes, and they'll have the ring and they'll
Except I think there's something we're missing here. There was effectively a new character introduced in this episode.
Yes.
The person that looked up at the castle,
and then somehow enters the castle.
Entering the castle. That to me is like, oh, there it is. There's our problem. There's our antagonist. There's end of the world.
Right.
That's the whole thing right there.
Yep.
Now, don't they look suspiciously alike?
Yep.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Here's the theory. Being, right? Finds this fantastical, stuff here. There's some laws and rules established here that seem older than the student council, right?
Right.
They're just the fantastical aspects of this world, right? Sure. Now, we have a ritual associated with that also might be older than any of the characters, potentially here.
Right, because it was something that they mentioned was the rules of how this works was instructed to them by End of the World, even if End of the World doesn't often tell them what to do as far as specific details of things.
Does it look like the sleeping prince on an egg was the one that
had this idea?
No.
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably the person that's going up there. Now, here's my thought. The reason why this being there is an antagonist is because the power, the sleeping power of Dios, needs to be awakened, right?
Right.
I think they originally wielded it.
Okay.
They were the champion duelist, right?
Dios or End of the World?
End of the World, basically.
Okay.
Whoever this person is.
Right, this new character.
This new character, right? Who probably has some kind of Anthe connection there that's very, very curious.
Yeah,
So,
some ultimate possessor of the Rosebride or whatever.
Right. Anthe, at the very least, is participating in these rituals so that can happen. The awakening of this. So regardless of how much
Informed
she knows,
participation, whether it's coerced or whatever,
whether or not, exactly. Yeah. So therefore, it's like I'm trying to cook here. I can feel it all connected. It's the idea that the thing that makes sense to me is that by taking on an image, and it has to do really with this idea of like the persona that's used thematically within the. Utena has taken on kind of the persona of a prince that saves damsels in distress, basically.
Yep.
I think that aspect is something attributed to the new character, basically. And they originally had this power. Okay. They are coming up here to the castle being like, so can I have you yet? Can I have you back? Ooh. And the reason why it looks like them is because it was theirs. Something happened. It's sealed away. They need Utena or someone that can break like the seal, basically. And thus this whole ritual works rather well as a theater play of sorts, where everyone's playing their roles, their specific archetypes, coming in here, and we're doing the whole save the princess thing.
Right.
But Utena is in this story at all because someone really wanted her to be a part of these duels.
Specifically the person who is now in a slumber.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't think that's attributed to the slumbering prince.
You think it's attributed to End of the World?
I think it's attributed to End of the World
to make that happen?
Using Utena to make that happen. So.
Well, no, using Utena now.
Right.
But back then, do you think it was that they like somehow sent the power of Dios that was under their control or something to then, have all this stuff happen with Utena?
No, I think
that her on her journey or whatever?
I think that what's happening here is that at a point in the past, this being had the ability to take on that power in the same way that Utena did. So Utena saw them in that persona of being the prince.
Oh, okay.
Not actually a prince,
all
just someone doing this for their dastardly game or something.
Which, if you think about it, that could be an aspect of it being sort of the serendipitous encounter, because this person shows up to Utena, but then if that is the other person, just possessing the power of Dios,
channeling the power of Dios, yeah.
The fact that she would be able to see that could be very that could have implications.
That could have implications,
right.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that the point of the prince being the big part of Utena's identity, and because her journey has been an identity one thus far, and you kind of brought up the idea that she fought and addressed and dueled herself, and she kind of conquered that aspect of herself. I think that there's other aspects that she needs to conquer, but
totally,
it's neither here nor there. Is that the prince aspect is a facade? It is a thing that she puts on. It is a persona. It is a thing that she puts on to give herself confidence, power, and then literally in the fight, we see that she's been doing that. That's
this
new information all the time, not even consciously.
Nope. And not even in ways that the other people they
necessarily know.
Right. They noticed they notice something. Probably noticed that something happened.
Yeah, that something shifted. Yeah.
Right. but they didn't actually know what.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Right.
There's no mention of them being like, hey, what was that? What's that? Floating down or something.
What I think is interesting here is that the first time that it was actually shown was in a fight where the president was present. He was
watching from afar.
Sorry. Yes, he was watching the first fight, but it was not actually shown there. He just noticed that okay, here's my theory. Here's my theory.
Actually,
the president has the ability,
episode 1.
whether it's a more of a concrete ability or who knows what, he is able to tell better than the rest of the student council at the very least when the power of Dios is being used. Is it possible that when we first see the power of Dios being used and it's presented in the show outside of this episode, that was just at a new level of strength or something, and that's why he was able to notice? That is absolutely possible. But given that we are having it be recontextualized in this episode, that was happening the entire time, and no one noticed it for what it was until the president. And that was the first time, I believe, that he was actively present for a duel, right? Because it was the fight. Well, okay, no, there was the fight with Nanami, right? And he noticed it, and then he set up the fight with Saionji, right, where he took advantage of it, right? So that there might be something.
We're cooking. I feel like we're really close. But yeah, the element of the student council president kind of being there, I feel like informs his decision, because I feel like with his at least somewhat limited extra knowledge that he has about what's going on, because he probably knows at least a bit of it, doesn't necessarily know all of it. The idea that could have informed his motivation as to setting himself up to needing to win the duels, but maybe like, I need to have everybody else fight a little bit to give myself maybe the best chance of being the champion of the duels when the egg is closest to breaking, maybe.
Sure.
And he's just like, oh, cool, there'll be more power of Dios available as we get into later duels.
Utena has been unlocking it
point,
this whole time, and now I can...
If I can sneak in at that point there, then I have it, and then I can hold this position...
Until it finishes.
Right, yeah.
So, and this is one of the other things that this makes me think of. So, with one of the other things that we got in this episode that even though it wasn't the main part of this episode, I want to make sure it's mentioned, is we got a glimpse into the president post-duel. Post-loss, right?
Yeah.
And we saw Nanami looking concerned, and we saw him listening to his own mantra that he says all the time, over and over and over, on loop, right?
Yeah.
That communicates to me that he was shaken by this, right? He was fundamentally like unnerved, and so now he's like digging down harder onto the whole thing that has been his identity, motivation, all that stuff.
For sure. Can I? Okay, go ahead.
Just this is the final bit from this whole thing. If End of the World is being introduced this episode with a new character, and they are the actual main antagonist, villain, etc. of the show,
then connected to Anthi,
then I would say that there is a very strong possibility that everyone else within the show is on the table for potentially being, at the very least, a part of the battle against End of the World, even if they're
all pawns as well.
Right, they're all pawns as well. Even if they are wanting to serve End of the World or profit from it or whatever, right? Like in the case of the president, I don't necessarily think he's going to be redeemed.
Well, they all believe that there's this important mission to what they've been doing.
Exactly.
Because of the president. But I want to, can I shift things here?
Yeah.
This is the other reason why I want to say that there's a perspective importance here to this final conversation. Who is this new character talking to? I don't think they're talking to the sleeping prince.
You think they're talking to Anthi?
They're talking to Anthi because there's multiple points where they use first person plural.
Plural pronouns and stuff. Yeah.
Could she be the person we've been hoping for? And
that is hold on.
I want to just go through this. If she keeps going, there's a chance she will reach the duel named Revolution. The day you will be completely released may be near.
Now, this is very much visually showcasing that the object, the you in this statement is the sleeping prince.
But the conversation is being had with Anthi present. Now, keep going here.
That could
go. Hold on.
Okay.
It's gonna start to make a little bit more sense here. Don't glare at me like that. Anthi heard that statement before and then realized you I see your double meaning here. Because I think this end of the world has played the role of the prince before, and Anthi was the princess that he like first tried to like save or something like that, and put Anthi into this situation. Okay. And now the whole you'll be free, kind of like the hanging, like the opportunity of freedom for you, Anthi, over your head.
But you have actually been my Rose Bride the entire time, but my directive to you was to pretend to be the Rose Bride for other people.
Right. And then also my role as the prince for you was a total sham. I am actually just here for this power. I am just here for this. That is totally possible. And even though even though I say, freedom, that could be applied to Anthi, but it's the framing of the shot is showing that it's looking at the egg and if we were to have a way in which Anthi is being coerced into this while it's still being something that she is actively deciding to do, even if it's not, she's being pressured into it essentially very strongly. If she has someone that she, say, very much cares about that is at the mercy of this person, is trapped in some slumber or whatever, and if she continues to play the part, then maybe they'll wake up, maybe they'll be okay. That would absolutely make sense as for why she would be so adamantly dedicated to continuing to play the part of the Rose Bride, even for all the shit she has to go through. Right, because it fits also with the idea, if the prince is a persona, then the princess is a persona. Anthi is a completely different person than the Rose Bride. Now, I want to keep going. There's more dialogue here. When we finally reach the day we've waited and hoped for, we will both equally profit from it.
Right.
We. This is not directive second person. This is
no.
So this is Anthi and I will profit from it.
Well, right. And with the way that it's framed, it seems like they're talking like the initial impression of they're talking to the prince. We'll both directly profit from it. Okay, cool, whatever. But yeah, if the both directly profit and talking to Anthi, it's actually that no. The reason we're showing the prince is because you'll get them back. That's the way that you'll directly profit. Right. And then I'll directly profit because I get other stuff. I get
probably some power.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I want to bring up another thing here. This is all like starting to click for me.
We're cracking the egg
wide open. He says, but a new stage is about to begin. A new stage.
And then drops the pink flower.
Utena. Hold on. Utena here. And then the background shifts into a sea of darker flowers that all look similar.
I would almost say a bunch of dead
flowers. Exactly. Meaning, we've had many stages before.
Yep.
And this is just the next one.
Well, and if you think about it, if it ends up
being... And then they all float up for just the transition card, basically.
Well, and just like how the petals would float up after the duels when the rose would get, broken apart and all the petals would separate and everything. And so if it's something where then like the love interest that is being blackmailed, coerced, whatever, into be setting up the protagonist in a betrayal that was always going to happen, that's a story beat that is old as time, right?
Oh yeah.
And it works, right?
It works.
And if it's something where it's the no, we're setting up to it, but it's because you would never expect it because you know.
Yeah. So then we get the trippy images afterwards, and I feel like if I see them a second time here, I could potentially crack them given how much stuff we've gone through here.
Okay.
Then Anthi says that the clouds are moving quite fast, meaning like, time. Wow.
Okay.
Things are changing. And also like I'm going to treasure these, moments where time kind of stood still, where time wasn't moving as fast,
where I was able to live Stasis. In the fantasy.
Exactly. Yeah. Then we get an image of a rose in a box of planar stasis of some kind.
Or just a glass cage.
Yes. But I'm wanting to make things as trippy as possible in my interpretation because we're getting there, man. That's like this anime is gonna go full Evangelion. I could tell.
Oh yeah.
And then we get a bunch of imagery of all the stuff here, and then the little UFO from the gag skit at the beginning, then lands in the area where this rose is, and then we see the ring.
Except I want to point something out about the ring. It might just be the color of the way that things are being done and whatever, and don't take it too literally and stuff. But most of the rings are like silver or, or something like that in coloration, and then you have the insignia of the rose. This one's like dark.
Well, to use the images that we just saw earlier,
it's like the dead roses.
It's like Utena's pink rose amidst all the dead roses. Exactly.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Shit's gonna be interesting.
And the weirdest choice of all this is not the visual imagery of all the like shapes and geometry and flowers and stuff. It's the fact that they flashed all the students, and they're all like looking at the camera with this sameness and
and
fakeness.
I think I know what this is.
What?
What do you notice about all these students?
They're all men.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all the dead roses.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
What?
They're all men. They're all princes.
Sure.
They're all people like Utena who channel the I will be the prince that saves the princess, but they're men. Utena's a woman. Channeling.
So yes, that is accurate. I would say no. So okay. As far as that having mechanical implications in the story, I'm not sure if I like that, because then that's making it to be something where it actually is important, your gender, right? And that being different. Well, two, I don't think it would be likely for there to be, it doesn't thematically fit with the story, for there to be other people that are unconventional in that sense that were there before, if they're not going to be relevant to the story, because they'd stand out here and then we'd be like, what's the deal there?
No. This is just the past.
No, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Utena being the main character is because she's going to bring about the revolution. She's literally revolutionary girl Utena. So, the reason why she's revolutionary is because she's a woman. This is the thing. The genre expectations are that we're going to have a male prince coming in, saving the female weak damsel in distress princess. But if we can say no, fuck genre conventions, let's bring about a revolution here.
Right. But the thing is that I don't think it's actually because Utena's a girl. Well, it's because of
of course it's because she's Utena.
Right. But I think that's an important distinction to be made, in that if these are all the people that could not let go of the fairy tale persona, all of that stuff, right? Like Utena did in the previous episode, right? Yes, they are doomed to fail. They are doomed to be more dead roses or whatever, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
And I think that's why. Oh man, I didn't even click with this. That's why I was getting the vibe that the persona of the prince is not a person. It's the amalgamation of all these people that have basically taken on and pretended to reinforce that stereotype, that archetype.
Yeah.
Even though that could literally be anybody. It's not about the gender of the person.
It's not like an Aowen situation of I am no man.
Right. No, it's more the idea that Utena defies the limitation that it has to be a man.
Right. And because of that, it's because of that poke at the traditional prince archetype, other things are then easier to poke at as well.
They're easier to highlight. Yeah,
right. That maybe this archetype, while it's it's got 95% good stuff, that other 5% is really damning, right? And we need to get rid of that.
It's in the same ways which a lot of fairy tales that will buck this convention will instead have the princess save herself.
Right.
And I think that's an important part that the story is also setting up, is that Anthe glared at that person, showing at the very least that slight bit of disdain.
Yeah, there is animosity and conflict between the two of them. And she is also in this situation. Aware.
Right.
But I would say that goes to showcase that she is not being the Rose Bride right now.
No.
She's just
Anthe.
She's just Anthe. And one of the other things that I think this could tie into that could be really fun is, yes, a lot of the visuals in the OP don't necessarily need to be literal.
Yes.
Right? Absolutely. Yes. Especially for a show like Utena. Especially for a show like
There's
Utena.
a couple things that we have like definitely like focused on, but yes.
There are a few things that I've always thought were kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. Yes, Utena is the one who takes on the role of the prince, and that's why she's different and easier to see as the main character and all that stuff.
Right.
But we also see Anthi taking on the role of the prince in the OP.
Do.
And so when I think
riding on a
of
horse,
riding on a horse and all that stuff, and she looks badass and awesome, right? And so if I were to see the way in which they truly make this also about love, also about bucking the conventions of what the prince really means and all that stuff, and identity and everything, you know, if you in the best love story, it's not about showcasing how one person loves the other, it's about showcasing how they both love each other, right? And so if it's about when they can both be the prince for each other when it's needed and the prince for themselves and all of that stuff, then you would need to have the both of them. And here in this episode, even though we weren't visually shown it, because they're holding that back for when it's time, right? You know, they're keeping that card in the hand.
Right.
It was explicitly told to us that was something that was happening so that we could be prepared for it when it happens.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thus, the thing that's so special about Utena is that she didn't need to win the ritual before she put on the power of the main character, the one that saves the people that are weak, that the ones that need to be protected.
And that would also explain maybe why then Anthi starts breaking the rules a little bit of the Rose Bride to take away the president's, extra super blessing on his sword or whatever.
Yeah.
To, maybe if she is the one that's been supplying the power of Dios this entire time, the reason why she has been essentially juicing up Utena for these fights, maybe past the first one.
For the big final boss.
Right, exactly, without them knowing,
And the scary thing about this is that there might be a limitation on how the power of Dios can be wielded.
Sure.
Meaning that
I'm almost positive that it is. There is.
Only one person can wield it, the champion of the duels and stuff. But it's not fully awakened. Therefore, the idea that Utena could potentially wield it, or at the very least showcase Anthi how to wield it, even if it ends up being fully like taken in or something by the end of the world or something like that. The idea that Anthi and Utena could be back to back with swords fighting off the evil prince, or something like that just looks so good in my head. Like,
it absolutely does. And I'm gonna make a little
leap.
Not kind of, but a
go for it. Yeah, just do it.
Funny Stardust implication.
Do it. Yeah.
So, if the power of Dios resides in the person who possesses the Rose Bride, who has won the battle, essentially, in a truly balanced romantic relationship, what does that look like? It's where both lose and both win.
Yes.
Right? It's the give and take.
Yes.
And it breaks the rules in that way.
Right.
So, what if the way in which they end up having a situation where love conquers all and it mechanically ends up giving a concrete benefit is because, yes, Utena is the one who possesses the Rose Bride because it's something that is freely given by Anthi.
It's her heart, yeah.
But then also, that can go both ways, right? And so then that's how you get to the point where they can both be riding into battle or whatever, channeling it at the same time, even though you could also have something where then Utena maybe gets on the outs and then Anthi, it's a role reversal kind of a thing. That could totally happen, and that's why Anthi would end up being in the situation of channeling the power of Dios.
The scary thing about this is I think that Anthi, if she has agency, she is trying to set this up so that she could potentially be like, what would be the result if there was a true draw in the duel? If there was a situation where she could potentially wield the power of Dios, could she then free herself? And that's her agency in all this.
Okay,
is that she's trying to set this up and manipulate things just right, so that ultimately she's like, yeah, Utena, I'm also kind of using you too, but yeah, you're all right. I like you. but I still need what I want. And
Well,
if
that could be
Anthi wants anything out of this, given the kind of new perspective we have on Anthi, I think it's that she wants this guy to fail.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Like absolutely. Because she knows he's at the very least duplicitous with her.
I mean, regardless of what she knows about him, she does not like him.
No.
Right? That much is clear.
Because when he talks about, again, I think that's a very, very like good point to kind of focus on here. He talks about freeing someone, but he's also using the references to them as the two of them. But when he's like he's looking at the image of the prince on the egg and stuff, almost meaning like, it'd be like if I was talking with you and having a conversation and being like, I'm going to free you, Jacob. It's the whole like, right, I'm talking about you. But, and you're like, sure. And then it's the glare of like, yeah.
It's great to talk like that maybe if you're watching TV together or you're at a museum admiring a painting, right? But like for a regular ass conversation, maybe
people
not
don't
so much.
like turn away from each other and talk like that,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a badass character. I don't look at the people I'm talking to.
Right.
I walk past them to show how powerful I am.
So
and I turn away and go, what are you doing here?
I just thought of something.
Yeah.
So, okay, lots of princes. This has happened before, and it will happen again, maybe, but not this time because Utena's the main character.
We Battlestar Galactica up in this bitch.
Yeah. But that resolves potentially one of the most fundamental potential plot holes of this show.
Oh,
in that, okay, why the fuck does the prince look the same as he did back then when that was like 10 years ago, 12 years ago? Is it just anime character design's not changing? Or is it because they're a concept that is then embodied by whoever is the current prince? And so then that's a thing where Utena saw that rather than the actual person that was there.
I kind of brought that up, but yes, that was something I kind of answered in the, well, it's not that Utena has actually a good memory as to what she saw. She's an unreliable narrator in that regard. But also, she does remember the form of the prince, which is the literal thing she's channeling. It looks the same.
Yep.
I don't think that's there as a coincidence.
No.
I think that's there as a very direct correlation that whatever she remembers, she at the very least in her mind can draw the connection to like that.
Yeah.
So even if she doesn't know what she's doing when she's channeling this power or
Also,
just channeling the prince,
that also explains why she would in any way think for a second that maybe the president was the prince she saw back then. Because if she knows to an extent that it's more of the idea rather than what the person physically looked like, she doesn't remember what the person physically looks like.
She has no memory of it.
No memory of it, but the idea of it lingers in her mind. And so when the president is like, maybe it was a prince
I'm acting
like me.
princely.
Yeah, I could have been that prince. She's like, oh.
Yeah, and you're
maybe.
here at the school. You have the rings.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think
that could track.
I think Utena's logic makes sense because from her perspective, she's probably more basing it on who has the rings because she knows that's tangible. And she sees this council with a whole bunch of people with rings. And then, oh, wait, the student council president also even ends up giving Nanami Sayonji's
I know it wasn't
ring.
Nikki. I know it certainly as fuck wasn't Sayonji, right?
Right, but then you have the question of, well, where did the rings come from? Obviously, they're magic, so they probably came from the castle, all shenanigans, ritual stuff here. So you can't have a chicken and egg situation here.
No,
we do. Oh my god.
I mean, I want to make the pun about the egg that's
Yeah. I was making the pun about that as well. Is that we just met our chicken? Like.
Wait, who's the chicken?
The new character is connected to Anthi. They're the chicken.
End of the world is the chicken?
Yes.
But he has nothing to do with the egg. He wants to break the egg. That's just so you're
That's
saying
a bad chicken right there.
No, so you're saying that
Well, no, they would be the one that
chicken
gave
did
the
come
rings
first
out.
before the
No,
egg, and
they're
that's
the one
problem.
they're the one that gave the rings to the student council.
Okay, sure.
Because obviously they're taking orders from the end of the
Well,
world.
okay,
so the end of the world gave the rings.
Here's another aspect of
Oh my
this too.
gosh, this is literally rivaling our Attack on Titan discussion right now with that day, you know.
But okay.
And this is on a recap episode.
They're at a high
the
school.
fuck?
They're at a high school.
Yes.
People do graduate from high school. New people do enter into high schools. You would never have a situation where there was no one on the student council, right? That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. You would have some people that were carryovers, some people that weren't carryovers, and you would have points where it would transition, right?
Okay,
there was a point.
There
was a point where, hey, maybe the current president got elected his very first year. But even then, there would have been the time before the election, right, where he wasn't the student council president yet, right? So all of this stuff that's happening, there is an active exchange and movement of these rings. Mm-hmm. So then having a bunch of people like this beforehand,
be easy.
Yeah, exactly. You're constantly giving rings and moving them around and taking them back, or saying, oh yeah, when you're done, when you graduate, just put them in the locker
cult,
over there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a cult of 5 or 6 or whatever.
At a time, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, let me count here.
5.
Is it?
5 traditionally in the student council. Yeah.
So then.
Yeah.
But then.
Yeah.
But then.
Juri, Miki, Saionji, president, and wait, hang on.
Yeah. But then Utena. Utena has a ring.
Oh, okay. So 5 rings.
Juri,
4.
Miki, Saionji, Toga, and Utena.
Oh no. There's an easier way to do it. They said 7 duels. There were 2 sets of duplicates, Saionji and the president, and then there was one against Nanami.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I wasn't wondering where the duels came from. I was just wondering about the fact that, like, so from the student council's perspective, it feels weird that they would be like, where's our 5th ring?
Well, like, that's the thing that seems odd.
That's why I think that there's an outside element to it.
Unless it's the this is the spare key in case you lose your ring and you still need to get into the dueling arena, which I get the feeling it's probably not.
No.
Then that means that in this high school where there are 4 specific spots on the council, on the student council.
Well, there should be 5. There's 5 rings.
Right. But there's only 4 roles, so there was specifically an extra ring made, so maybe the whole point of having there be a challenger like this is all part of the plan from the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And having an extra ring makes sense then have it not necessarily be someone that's connected to the student council that gives it away.
Unless the Rose Bride was originally supposed to have a ring.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing. One of the things that I'm very much you've got to explain this at some point, show. Wow.
How the fuck does Auntie have
No,
the sword
I just
in her chest?
had a really dumb connection here. This show is called RGE. NGE, RGE. I don't know. I'm just... Anyway. This dumb thing there. But no, the idea
Wait,
that...
RGE?
Revolutionary Girl Utena. Oh, I can't spell. I can't spell it.
I was like, wait, what?
I'm so looking for Neon Genesis Evangelion connections here that I'm like,
we're zooted right now.
I'm so zooted. Yeah. I'm literally like high on my own farts in this theory here.
The fact that I just love that we have been talking this fucking long
about a
recap episode from a goddamn recap episode.
It's not a recap episode. That's the point. It's a lore episode.
No. It's both.
No, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's not. The idea...
See, the recap was just a 5-head strat because they're like, okay, if they
haven't been paying attention, as fuck will be now.
No, it's not that. It's not that. Blank space draws attention to the stuff that is filled in, right? If you have a blank background for a painting, then that draws attention to whatever it is you did put on the canvas, right?
Yes.
If you have a recap episode, then that draws a fucking hell of a lot of attention to all of the stuff that is not recap. And so if you put trippy stuff in there, then we're gonna go crazy in on it, right?
Great metaphor. I very much like that.
Yeah. The other metaphor was Endless 8, right? You go crazy watching Endless 8, and then you're like, wait, that fucking thing was different.
And then you realize that it mostly doesn't matter. Like, there's like only one bit.
Right. Which is why I use the art thing rather than Endless 8, because I'm pretty sure this actually... is very relevant.
This was very relevant and very intentional.
Not just for a tonal setup, for like something
right.
coming
And
right
this
in.
is the kind of show that would make that artistic connection and stuff like that.
Oh, abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah. And I also just want to bring up the idea that you said we're in Act 2.
Uh-huh.
Like.
Yeah.
Well, no, what he said. Like the like what was said.
How will she fight in the battles to come?
Oh, dang it. There was a part. Don't glare at me like that. Trying to reach the day. Hope for both people. A new stage is about to begin.
Oh, right, yeah. They straight up basically
say Act 2 of the play is about to begin.
As they drop the Utena rose.
The mic rose. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So it's the whole, this is a play. Mm-hmm. There are players. There are literally yes.
No.
I think I know what you're thinking. Yeah.
Oh, what do you think I'm thinking?
No.
I can tell you it's
probably not. Okay, go ahead.
It's definitely not. I just realized something that I need. I have a mighty need.
Yeah.
Because we got that bit of the don't glare at me like that for Anthi, right?
Right.
What has been the whole
trope with Anthi? You have Anthi slap a bitch.
Yes, we fucking do.
So I couldn't figure out what you were gonna say. I just needed to think what's the kind of thing where to get with Jacob really excited. It's what's the thing he's least excited about? Anthi getting slapped. So conversely, right. Galaxy brain, we can just link and we're synced and we go.
Yeah.
So either we're super high on our farts here, we have no idea what the fuck we're talking about.
I am so excited to see what y'all think of
we're smoking the good push. Yeah, we're
embrace eternity.
Oh, this is the good shit. My eyes are burning, but man, I see the light.
I hear colors.
I can hear the colors. I can feel the curtain lifting. I can hear the director behind the stage. Oh my god.
The writers' rooms went exactly like this.
Except this is too much of a holistic vision. I actually don't think that this was even remotely
Are there new layers that we have yet to explore?
No.
With this discussion?
I think this is giving me that kind of that singular vision of madness kind of vibe where it's one person wrote this shit. There was no writer's room. There was no. I mean, it's an adaptation. Right. Of course, there's one person writing it, but it's just the idea that
then the editors just
the editors are especially. Yeah, whatever
They're doing their best to be like a filtration system to turn, help channel all of the madness.
They're some people are going to notice that you need to be grammatically correct about the way that you use the pronouns and stuff in this situation.
Right.
Here. So for that part especially, and then we're if they're grammatically correct.
Yeah, because that was something that we did think about. We were are they talking about Utena or Anthi here? Grammatically, it should be Utena.
And that's where you get good editors, but yeah.
No, it should be Anthi, but we think they're talking about Utena. And if Anthi is the one that's there and they're actually talking to Anthi, then that would mean that they wouldn't need to... The pronoun obviously wouldn't be talking about Anthi because they're talking about someone else that isn't there. So then it's Utena. Boom. And that's how we know that they actually are talking to Anthi, not just to the sleeping prince or whatever.
Right.
In addition to all the other stuff that was in there.
In addition to all... So the subtext with regards to this character's motivations, desires, and stuff that are being delivered through the visual medium of the episode itself.
Wow.
So
this was...
Yeah, I think I get a little bit as to why this show now has a very passionate, dedicated fan base.
Can you imagine what it would have been like if we had reacted to NGE?
Well, so here's the thing about that, Jacob. There were a bunch of bonus NGE things and stuff like that. It would have been horrible. We would have been getting constantly new endings and new stuff there.
That's good. Yeah.
I honestly want to just...
Well, and
NGE
not
is
to compare
great.
the two.
Yeah, not to compare the two.
Anyway.
But I think the foreshadowing and the way they're doing the drip feed little bits of structural expanding of what this story is being handled very, very nicely.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I do not want to
sully it by comparing it to
NGE because NGE has a lot of just ass-pull nonsense with no logic or thought behind it. So when I think about how this discussion ended up going, we are either cracked right now, or... I think we're cracked. I think unironically we're 85% cracked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or we are so going into the blue curtains thing, it's not even funny, right?
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. I don't think we're in a show where they're going to accidentally put in so many connections to be found here.
Right, and especially
in this context here, that's why we're
that's
freaking out so much.
That's the only thing that's in here, so it's like, this is extremely absolutely important.
And it's also very veiled for the nature of being foreshadowing.
Like right, and so that then you can then try and piece it together and figure out what the situation is.
Or from the perspective of once you get to the point that you do understand it, you can look back on this and
be
go,
like, oh shit, it was there the whole time.
It was there, it was very clearly set up. But yeah,
damn.
Y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion.
Yeah.
So if you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below. For our Patreon, you can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.